So we have the plot. It starts off with the 13-year-old girl Harriet, who just randomly got a job as a babysitter in the house of Mr. and Mrs. Winter. In the terms are she cannot go look at the baby, and she just got a job out of nowhere, and she only 13 years old, and she's really inexperienced with babies, as she hasn't touched a baby since she was 6 years old. And as I said, she cannot go look at the baby while she is babysitting, so she just has to sit on the sofa and eat M&Ms all the time, which can be quite boring. She just goes around, looks in the house, look at the mails and the doll wedding pictures. Then she is really curious and wants to actually see if there's a baby inside. Although she cannot open the door because it's too squeaky, she just wants to hear if the baby is there and is breathing. Well, she puts the ear towards the door. She cannot hear anything other than the traffic passing by, which can make you think maybe there's not a baby at all inside. Maybe they just all is fictional because they really wanted to have a baby, and that really proves to be the thing later in the text. At the ending, where they're sitting in the car, Mr. Winter and Harriet sits in the car, and Mr. Winter tells Harriet the fact that, you know my wife, and Harriet just says yes and walks out of the car. And that can even make you think even more that maybe that's really the fact that his wife isn't capable of actually carrying a child. So here's the setting. It's in Winter's house and it's without them. And in terms of Harriet, it's a quite dull old house, and you just have some mails scattered all over the place, and some dull wedding pictures and sad wedding pictures around. Nothing really spectacular, although it's in the modern time, as she can hear the traffic passing by, and she's sitting in the sofa eating M&Ms. So we can say it's 1941 onwards, as the M&Ms was produced in 1941. At an ending, they're in the Mr. Winter's car and getting the sad truth, if that's what you want to believe.
Yes. The mood. When you try to write a story, you have to have a certain type of mood. The text is supposed to make you feel a certain way. So it's either to make you feel happy, or just excited, happy, neutral, uneasy, or sad, or scary, or whatever. And this text sort of makes you feel, I would say, a bit uneasy or curious, as it makes me feel. If I take an example from the first paragraph, she would not have to change a diaper, they said. In fact, she would not have to do anything at all. Mrs. Winter said that Charles would not wake while she and Mr. Winter were at the movies. He was a very sound sleeper, she said. No need to have a bottle for him or anything. Before the Winters left, they said, absolutely please not to look in on the sleeping baby, because the door squeaked too loudly. So far, I'm intrigued. I want to know more. I want to learn. I want to know what's going on. Why can't she go inside? Why can't she go inside the door? Why can't she even talk to the baby? Why can't she do anything? She's just there. She's just there to take care of the baby. And for me, I would feel, as I said, uneasy or curious. But this is different from people to people. Some people might feel, okay, this baby, this baby, as is explained in the story, sound sleeper. Okay, fine. She's the babysitter. Cool. Doesn't matter. Some people might feel neutral about it, or maybe even happy about it. Some people might feel really sad or scared about this part, considering that these people have a baby and they don't want their babysitter to even take care of the baby. They want to just leave it there, even in the room by itself. It's not cool at all. The language of the story, I would say, it's being told in a sort of a storyteller type tempo. The most important part of a storyteller type tempo is punctuation. The most important part, as we see in, let's just take the first sentence. It's they used commas and dots very knowingly, you can say it. She would not have to change a diaper, they said. You have to take those small breaks. Just breathe in, breathe out, take some small breaks. You have that all around, all over the story. That's how you're supposed to read it as well. And also, they spend a lot of time. The writer spends a lot of time explaining what's going on. You know, in the first part of the story, in the first paragraph, we get to know the plot, as Christian mentioned in his part. But in the mid part, I would say the biggest, the rising tension and decreasing tension, you could say. They spend most of the time explaining just how it is in the house, what Harry thinks. He's just getting curious about the baby and so on. And at the end, you have the conclusion and everything. So it's just spend a lot of time explaining things.
I'm going to talk about the style and the theme of the story. In analyzing fiction, the first thing that the reader should consider is the writer's use of diction. Diction refers to the words that the writer chooses to use in his or her writing. For example, a story about an inner city teenager may include profanity or vulgarity. And in this short story that we're talking about, the language is fairly direct and complicated, with long sentences filled with adjectives to explain and to set the story to a certain tone, which Thomas talks about as an uneasy and quite sad tone. There are 6 paragraphs in the story, and I would say that they have all natural pauses, which means that they can tell a little story in themselves. A theme can mean a lot of things, but a lot of people say that the theme is the soul of the story, and sometimes the theme is mixed with the plot, but a plot can mean what exactly happened in that story, but a theme is something greater than the plot, like good versus evil. Like a fantasy story has a king fighting another king, but the main theme can be good versus evil. And in sleeping, we can say it's a lot of lies, shame, and concealment. Concealment means to cover up something. And if we want to think like Christian says, that there maybe is no baby at all, they hire a babysitter to cover up that they don't really have a baby, and that they can't get a baby. And as Christian also said, there's a lot of interpretations, different interpretations of this story. And it's a very interesting and clever short story.
These were the sources we used. Thank you.